So we see who's here who is signed into Zoom. So we do have a quorum and everybody is present that are members of the committee except for EJ at this moment in time, and he will join us momentarily. Are there any extra items that are not on the agenda that anyone would like to add? Okay, seeing none. We'll go ahead and move on. And then we all received the minutes from our July 12th meeting. Are there any changes or edits that anyone wished to make or looking for action?
I move to approve the minutes from the previous Middle Creek meeting.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion from Deputy Director Deligiannis and a second from Dr. Lyons. And then anyone oppose that action? And hearing none, that means it's unanimously passed. So let's move on to item number 4, project area parcel acquisition, update on parcel acquisition. And I'll move that on to, I believe, Deputy Director Deligiannis.
Yes, hi, good morning, everyone. And I'm gonna, once I finish, I'm gonna let Celia Hoberg and or Director Scott DeLeon elaborate if I miss anything. So as you all know, we had the Ortega acquisition that was approved by the board last month. So we were moving forward with that. We did get notice from the Montanos parcel acquisition that the state, they approved the, I believe it was the one, and Celia, please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have my information in front of me, so I apologize. From the previous appraisal that the state did approve, we did get a counter offer from the Montanos broker. We sent it to the state for approval. That they did say that they would not approve the counter offer. So I think there was an additional 124,000. Again, that number may be off. But then the state did say that they would approve it if we cover the extra as it. So we do want to move forward. We do want to acquire that parcel. So I believe we do have something going before the board tomorrow to approve that. I'm seeing Supervisor Sabatier shake his head no.
It's on the, yeah, it's on the 10th, Marina.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we will be having
that.
All right. Thank you, Scott. So we will be having something go before the board on the 10th to finish the acquisition. So once we bring that to the board before the 10th, we are able to move forward with that acquisition, and then we will let Paragon know that we can continue to move forward and successfully acquire that parcel. I believe that's all I have. Celia Hoberg, is there anything that I am missing?
Not on the acquisition side. We're getting ready to get the escrow instructions. I've already, the title company's already drawing the Ortega escrow instructions for DWR to approve, so we can request the check from them and get that one closed. Montanos will be right behind that one. And then as far as the acquisition stuff, we're still moving forward on all that. So we're good there, unless you want to talk about our little field trip.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
actually, before you get to your field trip, I'm going to jump in as well and say that the parcel acquisition process with Concert is ongoing. We are having Monument bring them in as a sub, and so we'll be bringing an amendment to Monument's contract to the board, but they're presently working on the plats and legals and the field work necessary to establish the 1331 line in the field on the properties that have the partial acquisitions. So now you can talk about your area site visits. Thank you.
And Bruno,
Please, Peter.
just comment very quickly. I just want to congratulate you folks on Montanos. In my view, that property plus the Buddhist property, which I'd like to know about the status of that. But there are the two most critical pieces of property which would enable us to really start seriously talking to the Corps, because those are critical for being able to get out to Clear Lake. And so anyway, good work, guys, on Montanos.
Yeah, Montanos was very agreeable to, his counteroffer, and the fact that we accepted it will pay the difference. I actually spoke to his representative, John Lazaro, who I've known through my 30 years at the title company. So there was a good in there for us
Good.
regarding Mr. Montanos, and everything is actually moving along swimmingly. So there.
Thank you, Celia. So,
And do we have an update on the Buddhist parcel?
The offer's been made. We got the appraisal approved by DWR, and the last I heard from Laura Didio at Paragon, the offer's been made, and I believe that the Buddhist Association is mulling that over. So I will check with Laura Didio this week and find out where we are.
Awesome.
good, good.
Okay. Any further questions from anyone on the committee on those items before we move on to parcel acquisition tracking sheet? Okay, seeing none, let's make sure we get to the public as well. Any questions from the public on those items? Yes, Peter.
Scott was going to tell us about a field trip. Is that still?
Oh,
Actually, I think that's 4.3. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was.
Oh, okay.
4.3.
Okay.
we're jumping all around.
Yeah,
Thank
Marina
you.
and Celia will tell you about that.
All right.
So let's go ahead and move along then to 4.2 parcel acquisition tracking sheet.
I see Corolla Kennedy does have her hand raised.
Oh, how come I can't see that? I guess I need to open up my participant list. I'm sorry, Corolla, I was not ignoring you. Your hand did not show up on your actual icon with your name.
No worries. It took me a minute to get it and put it up there, so don't worry about it. No, I just had another question on what Scott was talking about, the plats and the plans for the parcels. What does that include, and does that include all the parcel properties, like the Robinson properties that are parcels in fee, our fee land? Or does that not include ours because we're not in that position of discussing for sale yet?
Well, I'm not entirely sure I understand the question, but
I do.
okay, Celia, yay, Celia, please answer. Yes.
Corolla, yes, it actually includes everything that we're trying to acquire. So full acquisitions, parcel acquisitions, all of those are being done. And we're moving forward with that for the very reason that when people are ready to speak to us about selling, we've already got what we need so we can move it forward with the offers, appraisals, those kinds of things. So we're having them do everything right now.
Well, some of our questions are where that line lies, where that flood line lies. So if the county's willing to share that with Robinson, that would be greatly appreciated because it would help us, get to that answer faster.
Absolutely. And once we actually get the surveyor to give us the exact location of the line, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, but Scott, we can absolutely share the line with you. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. The line will actually be staked in the field. So you will be able to see it along with the appraiser and yeah, it'll be physically marked in the field.
Okay. So we'll get notification when you come out to property to do that, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
And so, Carol, if I may ask a direct question to you, and you might not be able to answer because you're not the council. Is the council prepared for us to make an offer on those properties, or do we need to sit down again with the council and negotiate how we move forward with those properties? Because I know at one point we were talking about that maybe there's a MOU where they're part of the local district, and therefore we did acquire those properties because it's part of the local district. Just kind of looking to see what the best way forward is so we can move efficiently.
No, great question, Bruno. Great question. At this moment, I would have to say no, they're not ready to move forward on property acquisitions and that conversation. At this time, we're really kind of gathering information and finding out where things lie. And yes, more update on on what's happening on the project is definitely warranted. I want to get together with Marina and get together an action item from the last conversation you guys had, so that we can at least, solve those, get those action items done. And then we'll move into next conversations of, yes, more information will be needed for the council to make those decisions before you start doing parcel acquisitions. So yes, but it at least starts moving us in that direction. So we definitely need to do that. And I want to see that happen as soon as possible, because the last thing we want to do is slow this process down, because we are in complete support of this project. It enhances it's wonderful for the tribe, and it will enhance their resources. So we are completely on board. So know that our intent is not to slow this down.
Yeah, no, I never looked at it in that way, and I get it. It's a sensitive situation to just give up, even though you would get compensated. It's still giving up land in one way, shape, or another. So I think it definitely requires the right amount of information for you to make that informed decision. I see that Marina, you have your hand up.
Yeah, and I just wanted to echo that, Carla. Thank you so much. And I'll be back in the office on Monday. So what I'll do is I'll give you a call or send you an email if I can't get a hold of you, and we can set something up to have these discussions if that works with you.
That's perfect. That sounds perfect. Yeah.
Awesome. If you have no more comments, if you can make sure and just put your hand down, that way I don't get confused on future items. If that's just who I'm supposed to go to and call, I don't have control of that at this moment in time. But we are on the 4.2 parcel acquisition tracking sheet. Do we have any information on that? Do we have anything to show today?
Hi, Marina here. So I do not have anything to show, but I just wanted to provide an update that we will be able to share with that to the committee before next meeting. So we're working on it right now. I have a few different Excel tracking sheets. I just wanted to converge them all together. So I listened to the previous discussion, and I'm just making sure that I get everything else in there. So if anyone else, whether it be on the committee or a community member, wants to see something on that tracking sheet, just go ahead and send anything that you would like to see on that tracking sheet. If it's possible, I will try and add it on, but email water.resources@lakecountyca.gov, or just contact me directly. I'm working on that with a few other staff members, Daniela, who is not here today. So I'll be able to share that with the committee before our next meeting for review, so you guys can check that out, see if there's anything that I'm missing. If not, I'll go ahead and share that at the next meeting. So just a quick update.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think that'll be important to have that done and prepared, and then we can go ahead and use that as a way to really see what our progress looks like. You know, that percentage meter when you're installing stuff on your computer, it's really useful to know where you're at.
Exactly. It's nice to have it all out there. So.
I'd like to say, one of the things that I appreciate is the frustration of why do things take so long, and I get it. And we're actually being a little diligent with this list because, as Marina said, she's merging multiple Excel spreadsheets. The Community Development Department recently ran into a fairly significant problem when they merged a number of spreadsheets of applications. The information became corrupted. It's affected some of the tax collection stuff. It's not just a simple merge a bunch of files, and so we've been a little diligent with it, and I know they're working on it. I know staff's working on it, and but we're really hoping to have a clean, accurate accounting of those properties for you by next meeting. So I just wanted to give a little explanation that we're mindful of the frustration of how long things take.
The practice and the ideas are two different things as far as how easy things are. It's easy to come up with the ideas and not always easy to make it happen. But I would appreciate that you said you were going to send it to us before next meeting. That way we can maybe provide some input prior to the meeting to see if there's any additional information that we feel might be missing. Maybe it's easily accessible and can be added on, but that would be awesome if we had that.
Absolutely.
And then Peter?
Yes, I would make a suggestion that it be chronicled very carefully, the turnaround time it takes for actions with DWR. Because I know from past experience that sometimes that takes a very long time. And given the deadline we're working with, to keep track of that so that if need be, we can make an argument that say, hey, folks, we're doing our part, but it's taken too long to get the turnaround. I think that's really, really important to do because there is a history of that happening. And also the sooner, if there's a pattern, the sooner we can sort of get intervention by those higher up to please help us on getting that turnaround time speeded up, the better. But we of course have to have our facts to support that. So
No, I agree with you that all that data is important. We are working with other parties other than just Lake County, and knowing what their efficiency is going to help us in our arguments for those extensions and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure 100% knowing Marina that she is very diligent in keeping track of those things. So yeah. I'll vouch for her that I think she's pretty good on the details. We are joined with Supervisor Crandall. Supervisor Crandall, we're going to go ahead and finish item 4, and then I'll pass the gavel over to you just so we can move efficiently. Any questions about tracking sheet before we move on to 4.3? And that goes as well open to the public. Any comments or questions about the tracking sheet? All right, let's go ahead and go to 4.3, where I hear you did a field trip.
Yes, so Celia Hoberg and I did conduct a field trip of Wednesday this past week, where we went out to check out and try and say hi to some of the potential sellers out at the Middle Creek area. Unfortunately, we were not able to physically see anyone. We did find out that there are a lot of renters that are located in the project area, and a lot of the sellers who did send back willing sellers lists, whether they said they were willing or not, they do not live in the area. But we were able to have a couple phone calls, and we will be planning some in-person meetings with some of these sellers here in the near future, ideally when I get back. But other than that, Celia and I did notice that, you know, we would like to be accompanied by or have Director Scott DeLeon join us or someone else.
Or law enforcement.
Law enforcement.
Not kidding.
Just for safety reasons, we were being very safe, but did try and make as much contact as possible. But if anything, it was just really nice to be able to get some eyes on these parcels. You know, they look a lot different, whether you're looking at them in an aerial photography or, you know, parcel map. And just getting that visual layout. So I felt like it was a very productive meeting, but I'm going to pass it over to Celia right now to elaborate on anything that I may have missed.
No, that's pretty much it. It's I notice out on the Reclamation Road, there are a lot of people out there that I don't believe belong out there. So I also feel the push to get these parcels acquired so we can get that road maybe shut down or closed off, or there's just, it was kind of creepy driving out there, even though we were together, and there were a lot of people parked out there that were looking at us like, why are you here? So other than that, it was good to put our eyes on the parcels that we are acquiring and associate those with the aerial. And also we went out to speak to Eric Seeley. He was out in his vineyard, but I was able to speak with him today. So he is pleased with the progress. I gave him some timelines for appraisal and offer to be made. He's just trying to make a decision on how much maintenance to expend on his vineyard if we're going to be acquiring it. So we got that taken care of, and he seemed pretty happy this morning when we got off the phone. So that's the only caveat I had.
Okay. Sounds like what you experienced is more of a code enforcement issue than a criminal issue. Yeah, even though I'm sure it would feel safer with law enforcement since they have better equipment to go out with. But maybe have a conversation with code enforcement and see if it's possible for them to help you out. Because my understanding of what you're saying is transients and squatters more so than anything else.
That, and I think people drive out there and park to do things that they wouldn't normally do on a busier street. So there's a little bit of that too.
And I would just like to add that this isn't new for, you know, reclamation cutoff area, as you all know, and we'll be given an update on our maintenance. we find loads of trash, literally pounds of trash, all sorts of things out there anyway. So, the county, we're making more of a presence out there. We're out there at least once a week. Ideally, we would get out there more, but folks are aware, we're arriving in our big county of Lake truck. But yeah, we still get the stares. I always say, I'm like, I don't know what they're doing out here. Probably nothing good, because it is very, far off and off the, normal path. So yeah, we'll definitely speak with code enforcement before Celia and I make our next visit, and we'll be more strategic when we make our site visit next time.
And if it's possible to put up a gate and put a knock box so that our fire districts can get in, and maybe a special lock so that we can hand out a key to all the rest of the current tenants and owners, or the owners can provide that for their tenants. That's usually how it should work. Maybe that can help out as well, because we don't want to have to clean up while also working on this project simultaneously. That's just not a very efficient way of dealing with it.
Yeah, and that's what we're in the process of doing. I know that Daniela is getting quotes to place gates out there. We did get that approved from DWR, but we do find that folks oftentimes just cut our gates, and so we're actively going out there replacing gates. So we're hoping to get better gates installed, but as we know, we will be restoring this back to wetland area, so we don't want to put anything too permanent in place, and going through CEQA and whatnot, it just doesn't make the most sense of putting something super permanent, going through all that when, in a few years, ideally, we're going to be breaking that stuff down. So still in that process of figuring out what's best, but definitely want to try and make it as inaccessible, to the majority of the folk as possible, but making sure that the proper people can get in when necessary.
Okay, thank you for that. Any comments from the committee on this?
Marina, I know that you sent me an email asking for a couple of numbers. I don't know if you received my message that I've never been able to contact a couple of them through conventional measures. It all has to be through social media. And the last time I did, they preferred everything be in writing via county letterhead, or actually Water Resources letterhead. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, and I received, and I appreciate that, Supervisor Crandall. So instead of taking the route of social media, we'll send the letter first. And if that's the route they want to communicate with, we can cater to that. But we're definitely sending out the letters in lieu of trying to speak to them on the phone initially.
And if you'd like, I can go out on one of the visits or something like that with you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Peter, you need to unmute.
I mentioned, I think, just briefly last time, but I think we might want to start thinking about sponsoring or encouraging a Friends of Middle Creek group that involves the tribes, involves everybody else, to get ownership of this project by members of the public. And because it has such wonderful rewards for doing that, I mean, just in and of itself, but it can go a long ways toward helping with these trash issues, and where volunteers are out there helping to address that issue, inform the public, make it something that the community feels like it's theirs, and it's really, really supportive and helpful. And it can help us a lot, I think, when we start thinking of congressional funding and all of those types of support that would be helpful. So anyway, I want to toss that out so people start thinking about it a little bit as something that we could add that would give real strength for the project. So, and
I know that out there it's quite the birding area to go see birds, and in the long run there shouldn't be any development or any type of activities like that. And so maybe looking at creating, whether it's another idea of a county park or a preserve, something that helps protect it, where then that group would be a perfect connection to helping us keeping it clean, kind of like EMEA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, thank you.
I like the idea. I'm on board with that, and we just need to figure out what's the easiest and best path for us to take, and what does it look like.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else from our committee on this? All right, let's open it up for the public. Any comments on 4.3? Mary Jo.
I'm not sure if this is the right place to bring this up, or
let's try it.
Someone, okay, I asked last time, how many willing sellers, how many unwilling sellers, and the people that haven't responded, have they been reached out to?
And I'll let DW, the Water Resources, respond to that. But as far as the committee, until we get that spreadsheet, we would not be able to provide the exact numbers or the exact answer to that. But I do believe we were requesting that that is part of that spreadsheet so that we can be up to date.
And that is correct, Supervisor. So I don't have that list in front of me. Celia and I did make contact. So of the folks that we did try and contact, we've received about 10, I believe, willing sellers list. All of them did outline that they were willing sellers, except 2. One said they were not a willing seller, which we were aware of, and that was Handstead. And then one of them said for the right price. So whatever that means, again, we have to have these conversations, and that's what Celia and I are in the current process of, is having these conversations. Ideally, they're in-person conversations, but whether it be phone call, email, or correspondence via letters, that's the route that we're taking. So Celia, would you like to elaborate?
Well, I just think also that once we get these plats and legals, which then in turn allows the appraisals to be finished, then we can go to these people with some intelligent conversation and not just say, hey, we want to buy your property, because the first thing that a lot of people ask when it's involving their property is how much, what is it worth? What, so we would have a whole lot more ammunition to give them a copy of their appraisal, talk about the project, explain to them the purpose of the project and why this is so important. And I just think it gives us a lot more credibility when we have appraised values that we know are fresh market, current market rate. So that does help a bunch as well. But a lot of these people are absentee owners. So
you have about 10 that you think are willing or have indicated they're willing sellers, 10 more that have
actually responded to the letters. And
Okay.
of course, we've had conversations with more, but yes, as Supervisor Scott here said, we will be having that on the Excel document that we will be sharing next meeting.
Do you remember how many letters you sent out? I'm asking because some of the it seems like people own more than one property. So
they do. And a lot of the property owners that own 5 and 6 parcels only got one letter. So unless
that's
there
what
was
I'm
a
asking, how many letters were sent out? What proportion are positive? I guess I was just curious.
That total I don't have in front of myself. So I think that was part of this Excel spreadsheet they're working on.
If I'm correct, it was close to half of the number of properties was the number of owners. So some owned one and then some own multiples, but I don't have an exact number. But I think we're at around 50 properties that we still need to acquire, and we were somewhere in the 20s of the number of property owners. I remember that information was provided to us, but I don't remember it specifically off the top of my head. But I think it was that kind of ratio that we were looking at.
Okay.
Correct. It was roughly like 46 parcels with 24 property owners. So for example, the Sage House, and excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that, they were sent one letter, but they were sent back that they were willing sellers for all the, I think they had
all
6
parcels.
Yeah, all 6 parcels. So yes, they were each seller was sent one letter, and then we had outlined the properties that the parcels that they have.
Okay. And my other question, is anything moving on Bloody Island?
Yeah, so that was going off of what Supervisor Crandall said. So that was one of the property owners we were trying to get a hold to, but they wanted to receive something in writing. So a letter is being sent to that property owner in writing, then to open up the conversation, hopefully in person or those verbal conversations.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you for your questions. Any other public comment on this item? Okay, I do want to add something. We've been talking about plats and legals for a while, and I know that it's been difficult to get those things accomplished and collected and refined to make sure that everything is correct. How close are we to, and I know that you may not have all the details, but how close are we to getting all of those done so that the appraisals can move forward? Is it possible to look at setting some sort of soft, doesn't have to be hard, deadlines to try and get those things done and accomplished? And I know you're probably working as hard as you can to get them done. And so this may not be helpful to have this conversation, but just to kind of make sure that we're pushing things along and that we're telling our people that are working on these things that this is the deadlines we're looking to meet. Just because we do have a hard deadline right now until we get further word from DWR at the state level that March 31st is our hard deadline. And so in order since there is something looming, just looking to see if we can provide a little bit more fire, I guess.
Yeah, so let me say a couple of things to that, and I appreciate the question. Concert is very aware of the deadlines, as is Jeremy. Those two are working collaboratively very, very well. Mike is getting things to Jeremy just as quickly as he can get them. I'm expecting to see a number of stakes up on properties in the next couple weeks where the field work will get completed. Those guys know and frankly are working without even considering the extension request. They are working as if our hard deadline is March 2022, and they hear from us on a weekly basis, and we're pushing them about as hard as we can push them, short of putting a hard deadline on them. And I'm a little hesitant to do that because I know for a fact that they are really grinding to get this stuff done. Mike Conser himself is doing the majority of this work because he wants to make sure that it gets done right. And he's here on weekends working on this stuff, and yeah, they're working on it very diligently.
Okay. And then another question is from the visual that Marina and Celia gave us of their field trip, is anything like that impeding on their progress, and they can't be done as efficiently because they're meeting up with transients and people doing things that maybe they shouldn't be doing out there? Is that an issue that EJ and I need to work separately on to try and get those things cleaned up so that it doesn't slow down their progress?
It has not been an issue to date. Mike knows the law. He's a surveyor and he's protected and has protections under the law for being on property. So he's very aware of it. And so far, no, he has not expressed any issues there. But I will certainly let you know if I hear something.
Please. Celia, you have your hand up.
Yeah, regarding that, as far as Mike, the other thing too, Jeremy and Mike know that they can call myself or Marina, and I will make phone calls prior to them going out with the property owners and or asking the property owners to let their tenants know. So that way they're not getting blindsided, because there's a lot of private little grows going on that I'm sure those tenants don't want us to stumble upon. So we got to give them plenty of warning, but I'm working with Mike and Jeremy both on that.
Okay. Peter?
A question about the legals. I assume those are title reports about title company. Is that a correct assumption, Celia?
No, when we're talking about plats and legals, they're going from the recorded legal description of the property, and they're creating the plat and the legal description of what we will acquire.
Oh, I see.
So that's what those legal descriptions will be on the grant deed. Once we finally get to signing, they will be deeding over the portion that we need.
Okay, so legals refer to legal description of the property to be acquired. Is that
of the acquisition?
Correct. Okay. Yeah. What about title searches? When does that occur? And
they're already done. I've already gotten all those done months and months and months ago. And okay. I stay on any outstanding title issues, any on partial acquisitions if we need lender approval for them to sell that. So I'm doing all that with the consultant behind the scenes. So I have title reports on everything.
Okay, Great, thank you.
You're
That's good
welcome.
to know.
Okay, anything further from the committee before we open it up again for the public? Okay, Corolla, I see you have your hand up. You should be able to speak. It looks like you're unmuted.
Oh, sorry, it was my phone that was not unmuted. My apologies. Yeah, and I'm just kind of curious of the timeline on that, Scott. There was no mention of whether it will take a month, 2 months, 6 months. I would hope that you have a guesstimate or something.
Well, guesstimate is 6 weeks at the outside. So I'm pushing harder than that, and so is Concert. I can assure you that.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Thank you for the answer. My thoughts on a soft deadline was around the early time of September, so it kind of fits within that range. So it looks like we're all on the same page, even without the deadline being put in place. So that's good for me. If there's nothing else from anyone, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 5. Are we good with moving forward? I think this is probably the highlight of our agenda, as always. Okay, let's go. And Corolla, is that a new hand up or is that your old hand up? Okay, EJ, it's all yours.
Okay, so moving on to project area property maintenance 5.1, discuss updates and next steps with project area property maintenance. And so we'll go ahead and move forward from there.
Yay, I'll take over. So we covered this just a little bit in a few of the other previous items. Again, staff is working actively to ensure that our project area is well maintained. Of course, that takes a lot of coordination with the state too. Before we move forward with anything, we have to get their approval. Some of the things that we've been working on is, the biggest thing that we've been working on is just getting rid of trash. And when I say trash, it's not just little bags here and there. These are large items as well. Lots of vehicles, lots of abandoned vehicles out there, lots of large appliances. We have some pictures of some of the trash cleanups that we've done. So before and after pictures, which is quite impressive. So Daniela Cazares, our program coordinator, has been working very hard in getting that done, making sure that we get the approval from the state and we are getting rid of that. We're hoping that since we're making more of a presence out there, people just don't use those grounds as a dump site. As Celia mentioned, it is hopefully the objective to decommission those roads in the near future. But again, that takes a lot of coordination. So in the meantime, just doing lots of trash pickup. This is all reimbursed from the state. We do have a task in our current agreement with DWR in terms of property maintenance that does count. We are also working on the decommissioning and the destruction of the Torrance and Vigil parcel. So Celia and I actually stopped there too. We were able to check that out. There are no windows in that house. So although the door is locked and although we have the keys, it's quite funny because you have to unlock the door, but you can easily just go to the window right next to it and hop on over that open window. So just making sure that folks don't find out about that property. There is a gate out there that we do have a lock on. So right now, there have been no transients, to my knowledge, that have made that place their home, but we did do an asbestos inspection to make sure that we can do the demo. So again, lots of stuff moving in the background. Trash is, again, has been a big thing. We're also looking at gates. And Corolla, I did make a note of your comment regarding Davis fabrication. I know that we've used them in the past for Highland Springs and some of the levees, so I'll make sure that we have them on the list to block up some of those roads. We're also working on the pump that we have out there. If folks remember from the committee, we did stop at that pump when we did have Congressman Garamendi out there. So making sure that pump is in commission and et cetera. So lots of things moving forward with the maintenance. We do have some wells as well that we do need to decommission. So lots of things moving in the background, and I'll make sure that we do share with the committee updates on that. But lots of things moving. Danielle has been doing great. Some of our field workers have been making it a routine just to go take a few rounds out there and make sure that everything is looking good out there and that there's no more trash, but seems there's a new pile every time we get out there. So there's also a lot of needles as well. And we don't we tell staff not to touch that. That is an environmental health issue. So we have to make it very clear too. We use contractors to go out there and do the getting rid of that trash, but you know, they don't feel comfortable touching those needles, of course, as you can imagine, and same with staff. So just making sure that we properly dispose of all these items that we find out there. So whether it be just garbage bags, appliances, needles, there's all sorts of stuff out there. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Marina. Any questions from Peter? Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to ask about using the properties that continuing agricultural use of it as being beneficial for protecting it and keeping it and sort of helping to deal with this issue. And I'm not quite sure how that works. I know, for example, I think Steve Jones is, you know, farming rice. And then we've got some properties that are going to vineyards and pear orchards that we're looking at and doing acquisitions, Sealy Peace, the Oldham and others. And then you have some vacant parcels. We have some large vacant parcels. And question is, what's involved in having some of those properties be made available for agricultural use, raising hay or one thing or another, on an interim basis until it gets flooded, which of course is a little bit ways away, and also as a way to help to try to control this trash problem, because we could have part of the tenant's agreement that they will help, tenant meaning the farming tenant, agree that they'll help on that project as well. It's just not clear to me what that process is and what's the possibilities are.
Yeah, and that's a great question, Peter. So you brought up Mr. Steve Jones. So as you know, we acquired one of his parcels recently. He has some parcels that he leases out there, and we see it as a benefit to each of us. So, you know, he and his team are out there actively. They have eyes on it. They have infrastructure that they want to keep secure too. So, you know, they serve as as some sort of security, just even so having a voice or an eyes on that area. Same with the maintenance of the area as well. So one thing that we also have to keep in mind is if we decommission these parcels, you know, we have to maintain them. And that also keeps in mind that, you know, we've already had conversations with, for example, vector control too. So this area is perfect habitat for mosquitoes. So if, you know, these areas just lay vacant with stagnant water for a long time, that's perfect habitat for mosquitoes. So then we have to go through and making sure that we do mosquito abatement, et cetera. But if, you know, he's actively taking care of the land, taking control of it, then that's one less thing that we have to do. So I see it as a pro. I see Celia clapping and applauding, so I'll let her elaborate too on this. But it's definitely a pro for both of us because he's making sure that that land is maintained. And I'm just using Mr. Steve Jones as an example. There's other properties out there as well. But again, it's a pro for both of us because then that's just an extra set of eyes that we have out there. I know, you know, Steve and I coordinate and we have conversations on a daily, weekly basis. So if something goes on, he's oftentimes the first one that lets us know if there's a dump site. So there's close communications with us, and he's really good at letting us know, hey, Marina, here's this new dump site, and vice versa. So it's great to have those relationships and, you know, additional set of eyes out on the property area.
I think my follow-up question is this. I understand Steve's farming his place. I don't remember if on the Bob's place, if that's covered by if he's farming that or if it's being farmed at all right now at the moment. And then to add on to that, other parcels that Steve didn't sell to us, but that are open and potentially could be leased for other agricultural purposes in the interim. Is there any both thought to that, and if it is what's the process?
Yeah, so I don't have the Bob's parcel information right in front of me, so I don't have an answer to that right now, Peter. But in terms of that, yeah, so I know we've had conversations with Ortega as well. They are interested in leasing back the parcel. So what we do is we have these initial conversations with those parcel owners if they're interested in leasing back for agricultural purposes, et cetera. So we go through with the acquisition, and once we successfully acquire the parcel, then we start that process of doing the leasing of the property. Of course, they're well aware of the timeline that we have, that this project area is going to eventually be restored back to natural wetlands. So, you know, it has to work for the both of us. But once we acquire that parcel, that's when we have those conversations of, okay, here, here's how this is going to work. So we have, we do currently lease parcels from that project area from previous acquisitions. And then the ones right now we haven't done with this new grant, we haven't officially leased back any parcels with this new grant. Ortega, I believe, will be the first one, since they have expressed interest in leasing back that land for ag.
Thank you, Marina. Celia, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I was just going to basically say what Marina said. The Ortegas do want to lease back. And Peter, to answer your question on other properties that are either have ag use now or could have ag use or grazing, the county is definitely open to leasing those properties back during the time until, the flooding or what have you starts to happen. And we can build that into each lease agreement that they have so much time and they can lease the property. And that way it's not just sitting there. And we will have eyes on those parcels. So that's pretty much just to tag along with what Marina said.
Get a follow-up question. Is leasing available to people who are not the prior owners?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It just depends on who's asking and what they want to lease it for and what the committee and, what's legal and what isn't. But
And so in leasing, so for example, if they're leasing it, they're tending, like, let's say it's hay.
Mhm.
Are they, so they're working on the hay and have a lease agreement made possibly with the county? Would they be obligated to tend to it as well? Like if there's garbage on it or anything like that?
That's something that I will check with our legal counsel, but I would think that's something we could build into the lease. It's probably standard. There's probably some language in there that, if you're leasing a property, there are certain expectations on any property that you lease. We could build that in.
Okay, yeah, because I noticed that, I'm not sure, and I'm pretty sure there's a lease agreement or something of that nature on, I think it's Irwin's property, because I see him doing hay. However, in where his house used to be, it's like a dump site, and I don't think it's him doing it, it's someone else doing it. But I just want to make sure if he's leasing it and he's caring for it, just throwing that in there.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good
exactly.
idea that moving forward, that whoever the tenant may be, whether it's previous owner or a new ag person or, livestock, that they understand this is what the expectation is, or the lease then is void.
Yeah, I think.
And I see too that Corolla has making it a native wetland plant propagation area. So we're ready to remediate this in other wetlands. And I don't know if you wanted to elaborate on that, Corolla, or.
Yeah, just that, we're coming into that place where we need more native plant nurseries here for tule replanting that's starting to happen. And then also this wetlands that'll be remediation on. And then also the northwest wetlands over there by the sulfur bank mine will also have remediation on it, which that one's really in poor condition and will probably be dredged. So it'll be a full restoration on that. But that need for wetlands plants is going to be coming up, I think, within the next 5 years for us, and sooner for the tules if we get on the ground and do tule replanting like we're discussing in the Blue Ribbon Committee.
Right.
Just a thought on that.
No,
because I think there's a level of getting the soils ready too for this whole wetlands aspect. It'll help eliminate that huge impact of water quality that you're going to have on the lake when you do flood this. The better we get the soils and plants ready for it, the better that water quality coming out, and the impact to the lake won't be as drastic for as long.
Right. Thank you for
Sounds
that.
like a win-win.
Right. It's kind of like the ideal that Supervisor Sabatier had with us, putting that funding up so it knows when we mean business. And that's the same concept with the lake. Hey, we mean business, so we're going to plant some of this here. So hopefully we can get into doing some of that, get some projects going. So anything else on 5 point, and we're on 5.1, on 5.1 from the board or the ad hoc committee? If not, I'll open it to public input. I don't see too many on public input. So, and with that, I'll bring it back. And there's no other discussion. We'll move on to item 6, which is update on agreement number 4600012946.
Yeah, our favorite agreement. So the letter of request for extensions did go out to DWR last month. I have not heard anything from DWR from those letters. So that was the letter from the district, and then also the letter of support from the Board of Supervisors. So I have not heard anything back from DWR. We have had active conversations with them. It's just been very difficult to get us on the same page with our current grant manager. Again, we had a new grant manager. So we had the same grant manager, Kevin, from the start of the grant. He retired earlier, or end of last year. I don't know, this year has been weird. So just trying to have these conversations, then making sure that we get everything that they need in our current agreements and our quarterly reports that we send on a routine basis. So right now we're finishing up quarterly report 7 and invoice 6. They go hand in hand. And then by next meeting, we will be able to have that agreement and that quarterly report ready for review. So if I hear anything in the meantime from DWR as a response from our letter of request for extension, we did ask for a 2-year extension. I will be sure to let the committee and the folks on this call know. But it's been crickets and relatively stagnant in that aspect. So, which I'm not surprised about, but
Yeah. Any questions? Go ahead, Harry.
Yeah, I wanted to know the new project manager's name. The last one was Kevin. Who's the new person?
Miss Nancy Snodgrass.
I'm gonna be good.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you. So any more questions from the committee? Hearing none, I'll open it to the public briefly. And hearing nothing from the public, we'll move back to the ad hoc committee and move on to item 7, Army Corps. If there's any updates on the Army Corps?
Yeah, what's happened with the Army Corps is that our project manager, Dylan Van Dyne, he was on family leave, an extended family leave, but he's back now. And so I'm going to reconnect with him. I want to give him a narrative on the Torrance Vigil, Ortega, Montanos, the Buddhists, and tell them that we're moving forward. I want to send him a quarterly report, the most recent quarterly report that Marina gave to us, and sort of update him. I want to touch base with him on some of the ideas that Robert Gary mentioned about a 404 agreement, and see about his relationship with Sarah West, who's Army Corps representative for tribal and cultural aspects. I think that Peter and I actually met Sarah West a few years ago when we went and visited the Army Corps. So that name rang a bell. So I want to see how the cultural considerations fit in to the work plan, and Dylan will be able to tell me that. The other thing I've been working on is this meeting with Ian, and Ian is the aide to Garamendi. Ian and Brad, who's an aide to Congressman Thompson. We want to connect with those folks, and Ian has offered, as I said before, to give us a conference on how to approach the Water Resources Development Act. That's the money, the main money for this project. So I was thinking about this, and I would like to propose that Peter and I go. Unless one of the supervisors is dying to go to a meeting about lobbying the federal government, I thought that Peter and I could go as coalition members and also as members of this committee and touch Ian, suck some information out of Ian as how to approach the lobbying effort. So I want to do that, but I need a letter to remind Ian what we're up to. And this was a letter I wrote asking Garamendi and Thompson to help us get on the work plan. And I'm hoping that when Marina comes back on Monday, that she could search for a copy of this letter. Have you been thinking about this letter, Marina?
Yes, and when I get back to the office on Monday, Harry, I will give you a call. I've been digging through my files, and I'll be able to get something back to you when I return, if that sounds like the plan.
Yeah, just any format at all, I can send that to them. One of the things, these guys, he told me he gets 250 emails a day. And so one of the things I learned from him is that you should reply to him. You shouldn't send him an official email, because I do that. It's my habit to send people new emails. And that got him all upset, because he doesn't have a trail as to who the hell I am, right? So I want to send him this letter and remind him of what we were up to, and then I'll arrange for Peter and I to meet him. So that's what's going on with the Army Corps. Thank you.
And Harry, just let me know if you need the specifics with any of those parcels. In terms of acquisition, just let me know. I'm more than happy to get you a trail. I know that we get the contact diaries from Paragon Partners. So at least for our priority parcels, I can get you specific dates of, you know, when the ESAs were completed, when the appraisals were offered, when they were accepted, when we brought them to the board, all that information. Just let me know, and I'm more than happy to get that to you.
Yeah, and a lot of it's in the quarterly report, so I know he reads those. So this is going to be good. I'll talk to you on Monday.
Perfect.
Supervisor Sabatier?
I agree with Peter and Harry being the representatives and looking at ways to lobby for what we're looking for. Just wanted to at least verbalize that.
Yeah, and I didn't want to run into trouble with the Brown Act. I didn't want 3 people.
Yeah.
Peter really understands the processes, and I'm a good note taker, and so it'll work. We'll do it.
We ran a tag team.
And I just wanted to echo the support of that as well. I think this is the perfect opportunity for the committee, and especially you and, you know, you, Harry, and Peter as well, to take this opportunity to try and get some movement in terms of lobbying. I think you two are the perfect folk for that. So I support that.
Okay.
And that letter, Dr. Lyons, that you mentioned that Marina is either working on or has already done, let's make sure that it's got some supervisor signatures on it, just to carry a little bit more oomph. And I mean no offense, but it's kind of sad at the level of discretion that our political offices have and who it is that they actually talk to and listen to, and that title next to a name can make quite the difference in whether they will give you that time and listen to you in the same way.
Yeah, you may have already signed it. We don't,
Okay.
you know, we'll see. Marina and I will track it down, because there was a flux of letters. There was a flurry of letters, and this was one that I needed a copy of. So we'll work on that.
Okay.
That was a letter to be signed, you know, in response by you and EJ, because that was, and for exactly the reason that you cite. That's of utmost importance.
It's funny how the experts don't necessarily get the time of day, but people who were elected who have no idea sometimes what the subject matter is about get the time of day. So it's just it's unfortunate.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Is there any other comments, questions, concerns? Open up to the public briefly. Public, if there's anything, raise your hand or unmute. Hearing nothing, I'll bring it back to the committee and move on to PG&E. And I know last month I had discussed, I met with Melinda. She came to our Earth meeting, East Region Town Hall, and I apprised her that we need to meet with her to start asking more questions about the project in general and whatnot. I've sent an email out to her, and then today I reminded her of a text if we can get together real soon, like this week or next week, to discuss further on that subject matter. I don't know if anyone else has an update on that, but I know that was one of the things that I wanted to take care of, but I haven't been able to follow up with her since that meeting, which was right after our Middle Creek meeting. So
Nothing more.
Peter, go ahead.
Just comment very briefly. last time we talked about coordinating the engineering with the Army Corps for PG&E, that there are two lines, as we know. There's the huge power line and then the other line that runs across there. There certainly doesn't need to be any Army Corps involvement. They could care less when it comes to that line that cuts it, the other line cuts across, because it's got to go somewhere else. And so that's something PG&E could do right now. And I think that would be, and so far as even the big tower lines, I went back and reread what the initial agreement was in terms of raising the footings and giving access. And but particularly that lower line, they get busy on that one and fix it.
The distribution line.
Yeah, the distribution line that runs from the casino across to across the project.
Any other comments or questions? And with this next meeting, should I, once she confirms with me, should I just have her invited to one of these meetings, or should we have a separate meeting? Like, so for example, Water Resources and myself and maybe one of the other committee members, something like that? Yeah.
Well, I would say 100%. I think in a more formal meeting, she might not be able to discuss things as freely. And I would suggest to have a subcommittee deal with that and then bring back to this committee what the plan is and what those meetings, what the results of those meetings are.
Excellent. Okay. So we'll go from there. Anything from the public? All right, hearing nothing, we'll move on to item 9, legislative. Any updates from legislative?
So I emailed John Ferreira asking him what the status was in his conversations with DWR. I have not heard back yet, but I know that from other emails for other purposes, not just because of Middle Creek, that he has added at the end that he is still working on working things out with DWR and finding out what the best plan of action will be for us to make sure that we have the ability to spend that money down and not have it deadline and taken away.
Marina, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I just wanted to check with the supervisors. I don't know if we ever sent John the letter of support or the letter of request for extension from our department, and then also the letter of support from the supervisors. If not, I will send that to you if you guys want to pass that on to John and his team. Okay, perfect. I saw a thumbs up from supervisors.
Yeah, I don't know that it's been sent to him, but yes, please send it to us, and I'll make sure, since I've been connecting with John, to make sure that he gets it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. And Harry?
Yeah, who's John Ferreira?
He is the Chief of Staff for Cecilia Aguirre Curry.
Okay, thank you.
He's the wizard behind the curtain.
All right. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, oh, actually there is Mary Jo Velasquez. Your hands up.
Yeah, I have in my notes that on 7/27, the Board of Supervisors meeting, there was going to be a request to set aside $1 million, $800,000 for the Army Corps and $100,000 for PG&E. And I didn't want to watch the whole video. So there's nothing posted yet about that. So I was wondering what happened.
Let's with that, let's close legislative and move on to project funding.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was legislative if it involved the board, but okay.
Yeah, same arena, but yeah, we'll move on to project funding and we'll give you an update on that. And so I don't know if you wanted to elaborate, Supervisor Spatier, on project funding.
Sure. I wanted to go with the easy way, just to make sure, because the money for cannabis taxes has been split quite a bit into different sections. There's 9 separate items for where we want to spend that money, from water resources, planning, economic development, retention of staff, all the way down to education to help out with educational programs that will help lift up our community. So what we did is we offered to create an item number 10 on the cannabis tax allocation map that has not yet been fully approved. It was approved to add item number 10 to that, where it took 50%, which was $400,000 out of water resources, which was item 1, and another 50% out of economic development and risk reduction, which was item number 3, and placed that into item number 10 so that we have $800,000. I thought it was easier to just go with what we really truly need right here, right now, which is the $800,000. There was a little bit of a deliberations and discussion as to the process that we were pulling those items, those funds for that item, but eventually it was all approved by the Board of Supervisors on September, I'm gonna lie and tell you 24th, but I don't think that's the actual date. But sometime around there, around the mid-September is when we will do the final budget proceedings for the Board of Supervisors. I believe at the state level, they're due October 10th of each year. So we'll be doing that before then. And at that point, we will be finalizing all cannabis tax allocations. And I would say even now, because we have the approval of the board, we can start using that in our conversations with the Army Corps and with our federal representatives to say, if you look at these minutes, the board has approved to put this on the side so that we have the money ready to go.
Great.
And I think there was also just some confusion, and that's at times you mentioned earlier, Harry and Peter, about the Brown Act in our ad hoc situation, and I think that got confusing for some folks because I'm on the Cannabis Allocation Committee and Supervisor Sabatier is on the Roadmap Committee, and so they asked why we couldn't bring it to those, and we're both on separate committees, but on this one, and so 2 other supervisors are on the other, and so there's all sorts of different overlays that could have conflicted, and so that's why we tried to just bring it straight forward, and we got it settled and figured out, and so, just highlighting that.
And from what was discussed from both Supervisor Scott and Supervisor Crandall, it's been a conversation at the Cannabis Tax Committee for a while to discuss Middle Creek Restoration Project. And so both members of that committee shared their approvals during our conversation. So I don't think that will be changing when we get to our final budget and our final allocation of cannabis taxes, which again will be in mid-September around that time frame. I think the project is too important, and the point has been belabored too often to the Board of Supervisors how important this project is, that there's no way that we will move away from that. We have to have the money there, or else we're going to find ourselves in a situation where the Army Corps might be ready to move forward, and we're the ones that are stopping the process. So I think we're in a good position.
Great.
Okay. So hearing nothing from the committee, if there's anyone from the public that would like to ask a question about this. And I hope, Mary Jo, that this answered your question.
And I will add something. Yes, there is another $200,000 for PG&E that is required. Let's go ahead and start that conversation with PG&E. Let's make sure that is what's required. Not to play tricks on our colleagues, but it's easier to ask for $200,000 than it is to ask for a full $1 million all at the same time. So now that we've gotten that $100,000 passed through, let's go ahead and work on what else is needed. And that's it.
I just want to say that I'm thrilled. This is a huge step.
Absolutely. We agree.
All right. So hearing no other comments, we'll move to Caltrans 11.1. And I'm on the New Deal or the South Deal Committee, which hasn't met this month. So I think it's shortly coming up here, and this next month I'll have some opportunity to touch base with someone and bring something back. And I don't know if anyone else has an update or anything of that nature. Supervisor Sabatier, you have something?
So I reached out to Rex Jackman, who is, I think, the main contact for Lake County when it comes to Caltrans and any of the projects that they're working on. He said that he will be our contact person, which is fabulous because Scott DeLeon very much well knows who Rex Jackman is. So there's already a relationship there. And so hopefully we can start those conversations sooner than later. And I'm not quite sure what that timing needs to look like and what kind of information we need. Do we need to wait for the Army Corps? So I think we should speak with Scott on the side and just kind of make a game plan as to when we need to have those conversations and what we need to be able to have good conversations, constructive conversations.
Yes, and getting them kind of understanding that together what we need to do.
Yeah, because it's got to be either a seawall of some sort or lifting up the highway. And I'm guessing a seawall is going to be a whole lot easier than lifting up a highway.
Okay. Corolla, I see you have your hand up, and so I'll go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I just want to make sure that Robinson's a part of those conversations with Highway 20 as it does split our land. And we are very much impacted by whatever that decision might be. So I'm hoping that you plan on calling Robinson Rancheria to the table during these conversations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, open up to the public. Hearing nothing from the public, we'll move on to public expression. And I wanted to highlight. I wanted to bring it up earlier, but I was kind of late, so I apologize. I know that when we met with Robinson Rancheria a couple months back, they had asked about being a part of the ad hoc committee, and with what Corolla you had just brought up. It shouldn't be a problem to have you attend or be a part of that discussion as of now. However, if we add you to the committee, that would be a Brown Act violation. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page with some of this. And I know that we had mentioned we would discuss bringing or entertaining that having the Robinson Rancheria be a part of the ad hoc coalition. But at the same time, once we do that, at times it becomes a Brown Act violation. So I'm sure we can figure out a way to navigate around that. But I also wanted to just discuss or bring that out to remind our group that they did ask. I know the leadership has reached out to me about it. And so I don't know what we need to do in order to either facilitate an answer or discuss it. But I just figured I'd do my due diligence and bring it up.
So I in a weird way, I have a problem with that because it's almost a conflict of interest when we're offering to buy property from a group who then might become a member. That's my only issue. Other than that, I think our conversations absolutely are required to be open, as open as possible with Robinson Rancheria. But the fact that we are working on offering funds directly to them makes me a little nervous about adding them as a member. That's my only caution. Everything else, yes, what we do will definitely have an impact and should involve them in every step that we take.
Crowley, you still have your hand up? Did you want to touch base on this?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, both for that insight. And that is a lot to consider on both sides, the Brown Act and then also the conflict of interest. So let me take this back to Tomasio and the leadership and have more conversations on this. And maybe it's best just to keep going the direction we're going. I appreciate that you guys are always willing to listen to my comments and listen to what I have to say and take it as part of the conversation. Thank you very much for that. And so, yes, I'll have these conversations and get back to you before the next meeting so we can put this to bed or put it to rest or decide which way we're going to go.
I know too that, and I'm not sure if this was discussed in the meeting that we had with Robinson, but I know they were looking at other alternatives. If we as a acquisition had other alternatives to purchasing land, or as rather doing some sort of agreement so that the tribe or the owner or whoever would still be able to maintain the land. However, there's like an easement type of procedure or something along that nature. And I think that's more of a Scott or and also legal type of situation, or Celia might know but I know that that was brought up some way, shape, or form. So.
Do you mind if I ask for clarification? Are you saying, like, for instance, if they join us and saying, look, we don't want to sell the property, we want to keep it, but we want to support the project, keep going, and then kind of do an MOU with us, that at that point, it would be perfectly fine to offer a seat at the committee?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what it is. I just know that rather than sell, they would rather have the property still. I mean, they know it's flooding, and that's the understanding. However, still having that access to wherever it goes to, I think that was brought up. I think that's more, I think Corolla maybe need to bring that back to the tribe like we talked about. And I see Celia has, I don't know if that answers your question, Bruno, but.
No, I think that we're both on the same page. And granted, I'm going to kind of correct my last statement. We can easily have two government agencies and still be on the same committee and also deal with funds and purchases and exchanges and be on the same committee. I spoke out of turn in treating Robinson Rancheria as a private entity when they are a government jurisdiction. And so I think that that does change things, because we do that all the time. And so I correct myself.
Thank you, Bruno. Celia, I see you have your hand up, and I think maybe you might have some.
Yeah, just going to the issue of an easement rather than us purchasing the property. And I read that agreement pretty regularly, because every time I read that infamous agreement, I glean more things out of it. And we had talked internally a little bit about trying to speed up the process by possibly acquiring easements, flowage easements, those kinds of things. And reading that agreement and trying to keep my head clear without any preconceived ideas, Water Resources, or at the state level, really does not like that at all. And what they keep talking about is unified title. So what I'm understanding where Army Corps of Engineers is concerned is they want the property acquired uniformly the same way, because at some point in the future, if I understand correctly, and Army Corps takes over this project, the title has got to pass clearly without a bunch of easements and requirements and policing of those easements. So I don't know that that's actually anything that at the state level, they want us to do. They want us to acquire these parcels in fee. And we even had some conversations with Nancy Snodgrass in an email trying to, feel out how that would work. And they weren't going for it at all.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes it worse or better, but that's what I learned.
I'm not sure. Corolla, did you ever hand up from before, or did you?
I think she's still connecting her audio again. There she goes.
Okay, so Peter has his hand up while we're waiting for Corolla. Go ahead, Peter.
Just a comment. The contract with the Corps is very explicit that title must be held in fee, which is to say no easements, no flowage easements, and the Corps' contract trumps anything with DWR. And so it's the Corps that would have to be modified in terms of that contractual relationship. That's top dog. And so anyway, and in fact, I think this whole discussion was one that was taken up quite some time ago and resulted in the ring levy alternative one, because there wasn't a meeting of minds. So anyway, just to comment about that, it's very, very explicit in that agreement. So, or condition, it's really a condition of the Corps taking on the project.
Understood. That's I'm glad we're talking about this, because I know just having my knowledge from being in a tribal government, hearing that kind of puts a lot of, I guess, mixed emotions, because tribes know they've existed for thousands of years and they get frustrated when.
Absolutely.
But we got to work through them, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Right.
So So yeah.
And we support that very, very much, EJ. I'm totally.
No, I know you do. I just,
Yeah.
I have knowledge. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so sometimes, and that's actually, I'll be honest, that's what stopped a lot of progress in the late 2000s when I was on the council before with the other leadership. They wouldn't even meet with the county at the time. They were very staunch in not even, they were trying to kind of put a halt in it at that time.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm trying to be kind of more inclusive, or, you know, discussing this and getting everything on the table. And I think we're doing a really good job of it, and we'll continue to do that. So.
And if we need to take that up with the Corps, absolutely, I certainly would support that entirely. It's just under the present situation why those are contractual obligations. So,
yeah. Supervisor Spati.
I think that legally there's a lot of different ways we can maneuver through what's already written in the contract. Going through the Corps might just create some hurdles that we don't want to create more than what already exists. Yeah. So I think we need to work within the framework that is already written so that we can keep the project moving forward at the Army Corps perspective. And we just need to figure out how do we meet what they all are telling us to meet, and work with county council and work with Robinson Rancheria on what can we do to kind of maneuver through this and all end up with the same result. I think that's a very high possibility, and I think that's the direction I would prefer to go than trying to ask the Corps to possibly take a look at changing their contract.
I like that too. Corolla, do you still have your hand up for this subject, or is it just, oh, there she goes.
Yeah, I do have something. I'm sorry, I lost audio on that. But Robinson would definitely just like to discuss the options so we know what our options are available to us with the fee land. Is there easements available, which it sounds like there may not be with U.S. Army of Corps. And maybe that's a conversation more to have with Army Corps at the table also, so that we know, what can happen and can't happen, so we're charging forward in the correct way. And this doesn't slow us down, in the end, because there was another option available to the tribe, but didn't come up or something like that. So yeah, I would really like to find an opportunity, and who that would be, whether it's your contractor that does land sales right now, or, to have those discussions on what are the options for Robinson besides just a flat out sale, or is that the only option,
Right. I think too that I remember in 2015, prior to all of the new leadership and whatnot in the county, there was a meeting with Army Corps and the council. Those people are not there any longer. And so maybe if we can work on a way to connecting the tribe and Army Corps to have that discussion in one of the tribe's council meetings. And then that way the government can ask, the government of Robinson can ask the tribe or the Army Corps those questions, and that way we're not committing any other type of confusion here in this situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes
yeah. Resolving those issues is one of our preconditions to getting the record of decision. It's what is described in that letter of series of things that have to be done. One is the agreement between the Corps and Robinson. So it's certainly there to be discussed and resolved.
Supervisor Vati.
And if I may, since this is a sensitive issue, and since Robinson Rancheria has such a large number of properties in that region, in the northeast region of the project, I know that Corolla was going to go back to the council and have discussions. Is it possible to try and start discussions with us prior to next month's meeting, so we can try and figure out what steps and what options we have together? That way we're not just working in our own areas, and really looking at what are the possible options to take with each other. Because I think that no matter what, I think Robinson Rancheria was not reluctant to have conversations with us. It's more about us having those options ready to go and offered, and sitting down at a table and seeing what would work best for everybody.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Bruno. That's we just would like to know our options and what's available, and the sooner that comes to the table, the sooner we can all have our conversations and decide what, they can decide what direction they're going to go. So yes, by all means, we should get to the table as quick as possible. As Marina explained, her and I will get together on Monday and discuss the action items from the last conversation that you guys had with council, and I'll make sure to get an email out by the end of next week with all of that and work on a next meeting in hopes we can have maybe a meeting before the next Middle Creek restoration meeting. And just so the committee knows, we are currently in conversation with Army Corps. I've opened that door with them and started conversations. We're probably going to start doing monthly calls just so that we can keep up with them. They can keep up with what we want, what we have going on our trust land and some of the other thoughts and ideas. I also alluded to them that the importance of this project for the tribe, and that I'd like to help them with their yearly document that they send over on water quality information, because they're not fully picturing how critical Clear Lake is right now and how critical it is that these projects happen. They did not understand that there's currently a impaired list happening for dissolved oxygen and microcystin. They weren't aware that there's tribal beneficial uses getting designated on this lake. And they were unaware of the fact that there's now a monitoring order for drinking water for microcystin for the public water system. So those are critical things that I think need to be put in there to help us get this federal funding. So I will be working with them on that and have started that conversation with Army Corps.
That's good.
Thank you, Corolla.
Yep.
All right.
And if Peter and Harry want to take Corolla with them to lobby the federal government, please do so. That won't be a Brown Act violation.
Well, Corolla brings her own
get on the committee.
Oh, see, I'm glad we're hammering this out. That's the key, and so we'll get there. And I know we all mean the best intentions. So
Absolutely.
And so I think we're public expression. Is there anyone else that would like to? All right. Non-timed items. Let's see. Discussion on how meetings will be held in person or Zoom.
I think we discussed this last time that we all prefer Zoom at this moment in time. It's been working for us, and it seems to work to get the public involved. And so I'd say let's just keep that going, because things aren't looking that much better out there with COVID. So this is a good option.
All right, I'm on board with that as well. And then 13.2 Middle Creek meeting video recordings on YouTube.
Yeah, so the item is exactly how it outlines on the agenda. Our water resources, the County of Lake Water Resources, we have a YouTube page now. So of course we have the meeting minutes, agendas, and the recordings on our water resources website. But if you have nothing better to do and you want to relive the previous meetings that we've had, feel free to check us on our YouTube page as well. So not only do we have our Middle Creek meetings on our water resources YouTube, feel free to subscribe. All these recordings will be on YouTube and on our website as well. But all sorts of all water resources meetings are recorded and put on our YouTube. So check us out on YouTube and subscribe.
Don't forget to like.
Yes, don't forget to like and subscribe.
You might get money after 1 million followers.
I wish I had my niece on the call. She's super into YouTube now. She just turned 5, and her favorite thing to do is don't forget to like and subscribe. So maybe we'll get a little shout out from her.
All right. And so next meeting is scheduled for September 6th. Is that still on? Are we on board with that?
Is that after Labor Day weekend?
That's why I figured I'd ask, because I know that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to move that since it does fall on the holiday.
So it'd be the 13th then?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing, if that works for everyone.
The 6th is actually on a Wednesday. Is that what it showed? No, sorry. So yeah, the 13th. My bad.
Yeah. Yeah, the 13th at 10:30 a.m. That's what we've been pushing it back to the week after. Does that work for the committee? I'm seeing thumbs up.
I'm good.
All right, awesome. So we'll make sure that modification is on the website as well.
I would be joining late, but I would make some of the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Harry. All right, so we'll move that meeting to the 13th then.
And if you're doing music before that, please join on time.
Okay.
All right. Well, that leaves us at adjournment, and sorry I was late today, everybody, but I think we got where we need to get, and we'll have some of these things done for next month, and hopefully get some answers from everyone we reached out to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Thank you, everyone, for your hard work as well, because I know everybody works diligently on this, and without this group, we are not gonna. We're trying to prevent nutrients from the lake. That's our goal.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
All right.
Good.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.